Good day. You are listening to Philip Mollica's Consciousness Evolution. New content is published first at philipmollica.substack.com. Please subscribe to receive new columns and audios directly to your inbox. We offer free subscriptions, or you may support us with a paid account. At this point, all content is freely available to all, but we definitely always appreciate the financial support if you see the value in our offerings. Also, please give us a like if you enjoy the content, and comments and questions are always welcomed and appreciated. Audios are also available now on Substack, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Today's column is entitled Deconstructing Physical Reality, an interview with the Essence Petra. As promised in our last column, reverse engineering physical reality, today we have connected with the Essence Petra, who is Philip's essence, spirit, soul, higher self, although we eschew most of those labels based on the religious or metaphysical associations they conjure with many humans. We will use the interview format to have a conversation with Petra, where they can hopefully shed some light and offer a different perspective of who and what we are as humans beyond our typical conscious objective awareness. So let's jump right in. Petra, please introduce yourself and give us your perspective of humanity. Good day. We are Petra in your terms. We don't use names in such a non-physical because no such identification is necessary. We exist. The name is simply for your purposes, since identity is still an important part of your belief systems. Oh, kind of reminds me of the Three Stooges bit when Curly is seriously injured. Moses, speak to me, kid. Give me your name so I can tell your mother. My mother knows my name. Exactly. Additionally, we don't have a perspective as such. Outside of a physical reality such as yours, perspective is unnecessary. There is only knowing. Because the nature of our existence is so foreign to you, some background and ground rules are required. First off, in our realm or plane, there is no time as you would recognize it, and there is no space. There is only now, and here has no meaning except that here is not there, except when it is. But again, because of your belief systems and experience, a translation will be necessary in order for you to make sense of what I will tell you. Secondly, we are not separate from you. You are as much me as I am, and I am as much you as you are. And both of us are interconnected with everything else. What we have is simply a differentiation of levels of awareness. But the separation of anything that exists is simply not possible, as we are all part of the universal creating one and whole. You would consider that God or Source or all that is, but we shall simply refer to it as Tukau, to again avoid the associations that humans have with those words and labels. Now, you want to know how you exist, and that begs the question of how I exist. But in order to understand that, we need to back up to the position of Tukau and see how all this came about. We will try to be brief, but our summary is bound to introduce a significant distortion to these concepts, since it is being translated down through layers of awareness to the human experience, which is uniquely and considerably divorced from anything above it in the food chain. Human life in a physical reality is the end result of a process of seeming separation from Tukau. In truth, though, that separation is merely an illusion undertaken for the benefit of humanity in having a pure experience of expression as a singular form. So, let us discuss Tukau for a moment. Please understand that my knowledge of Tukau is nearly as much a mystery to me as my reality is a mystery to you. We can only suggest Tukau's experience based on what we know from our vantage point. Tukau is not a being. The closest thing we could suggest to imagine it would be an energy gestalt, similar to us but encompassing all that exists and doesn't exist, including us. Tukau is a great, all-encompassing subjective awareness. Similar to us and you, it knows itself as itself. It knows of no other, though there may be other. It may be a part of an even greater awareness gestalt. Now, in order to shed some light on the process that led to the creation of us and you, we must give Tukau some attributes of singularity and identity, but bear in mind that is a significant distortion of Tukau's existence. So, with that understanding of the inherent distortion, let us say that Tukau is a massive subjective awareness. Swirling within its subjective musings, its imaginings, comes a desire to know more of itself. How would this occur, it wonders? As it wonders in its magnificent ponderings of its incredibly massive subjective awareness, it spawns what I would call sparks of creative imaginings, similar to your dreams. Now, these sparks, these divine dreams, then begin to take on a life of their own. They begin to flush out what might be required to allow their expressions more fully. In a flurry of inspiration, Tukau suddenly recognizes that its musings, these dreams, can be actualized in such a way to allow this divine expression. The dreams themselves, and being offered such an opportunity, are all in. We definitely want a piece of that. And such is how we as essence came to be, and by extension, you as human. Tukau, in its creativity and wisdom, endowed these dreams with free will and the incredible creative ability of Tukau by proxy. The dreams themselves became organizations of consciousness, empowered by Tukau with all the abilities they would require to actualize themselves and their creations in the endeavor of expression for the purpose of Tukau knowing itself more fully. Essence, then, is those sparks of the dreams of Tukau, actualized into the organizations of consciousness that we refer to as essence, that would eventually create humanity. Then it was off to the races. Fascinating. So what were the next steps? How do you, essence, these organizations of consciousness, go about creating a means to do so? Well, it all had to be developed. Think in terms of any major project, especially one that was unprecedented. Nothing physical had ever existed before. There was no time, there was no space, there was nothing to refer to. Everything had to be literally developed from scratch. Tukau was hands-off at this point. It had already endowed essence, these organizations of consciousness, with all we would need to complete the task. The energy, the power, the free will, the ability, the freedom to create something that had never existed before. So, essence got to work. And how does one create a physical reality that has never existed before? How did essence develop it? So, we had to start with the idea of a physical dimension. A physical reality seemed to be the most reasonable and efficient means of allowing the experience of separation for the participating consciousness with the express intent of exploring every perspective nuance possible to the greatest extent possible. Focus is actually a great word to describe each life experience because it is a focus of attention and intention into a specific area of expression. No two focuses are identical. So this type of physical environment development is where we placed our attention and efforts. Actually, in the process of imagining this dimension, we ended up with a ton of one-offs, many kinds of dimensions, physical and otherwise. Now, because everything that is imagined exists, those other dimensions continue, many, if not most of them, right alongside this particular dimension of yours. When I say alongside, many of them actually exist in the same physical space as yours. Imagine a framework that can support many types of realities simultaneously. This is what we have here, is a framework upon which many different types of blueprints of various realities are superimposed. However, they are all separated by veils, and beings in one are generally unaware of the beings in another, though that is changing with the shift. But your dimension, your physical reality, was to be the coup de grace, the experience, the dimension, to end all dimensions. This was our primary goal. And your particular dimension was designed such that it could easily be used as a stepping off point to these other dimensions, a sort of consciousness clearinghouse that would conveniently allow a transformation of form and energy to move from one dimension to another, even between dimensions unrelated to yours. This accounts for at least some of your UFO sightings, as beings use your dimension to change form and traverse between other dimensions, often completely unaware that they are temporarily visible to beings in your dimension or even of your existence. How do you like that? Incredible. So you start with the framework of this dimension and then needed to develop a blueprint. What happened next? Well, then we really had to dive into the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of how to make this work. And that required a separation of duties. Now remember, at this point, essence is strictly non-physical, more like Tukau than of anything resembling a physical being. We had to figure out how to develop a physical environment. But at this point, we didn't have boots on the ground, and we didn't even know what boots on the ground would look like. So how were we going to go about the incredibly complex task of developing systems that were physical when we ourselves were not physical? Oh, that sounds tricky. Indeed it was. Enter the dream walkers. These would be your earliest ancestors as such. Many of you have dreamwalker aspects or focuses. In other words, your essence, us, while incorporating hundreds or thousands of focuses of you in your terms, past, present, and future, we also incorporate these dreamwalker focuses or aspects. That means that they are a part of you also, and you can connect with them just the same as you can connect with other past, present, and future focuses of your essence, us. And just a reminder here that although we speak in terms of you, us, them, past, present, future, there is no separation truly. It is all you, and it is all now. Don't fall into the tender trap of separating yourself from any of it. So these dreamwalkers, these aspects, these focuses, For the purposes of our development of your physical reality, we're partially physical and partially non-physical, depending on their particular area of development. And various dreamwalkers took upon themselves the development of various aspects of your physical reality in conjunction with essence. Someone had to develop space, stars, planets, galaxies, the universe. Someone had to develop the Earth, which would be the primary location for humanity. Someone had to develop gravity, time, light, the physical properties of your universe. Someone had to develop nature, animals, insects, plants, sea life. Someone had to develop human bodies, physiology, organs, form, from the resources that came from the actual physical planet. Someone had to develop the human mind, sexuality, emotion, how to connect ourselves, essence, with the focuses of attention we would be creating, which would then inhabit a physical body, and on and on. And then someone had to do continuity to be sure that the experience was so complete, so compelling, so singular, that no one having the human experience would ever suspect otherwise. That alone is a lot trickier than it sounds. The dreamwalkers basically were the architects and guinea pigs of creation, and largely responsible for what you think of as your physical reality today. I haven't even begun to cover the amount of development that was required. It was a project manager's nightmare. Untold variations of every theme were tested and either rubber stamped or superseded by and through the dreamwalkers. And it was never completed. It continues to this day in your terms because everything is now. You, me, all of consciousness, even Tukau, are always in a state of becoming. Consciousness is not a thing. It is an action. For without action, there is nothing. Now, this took, in your terms, millions of years, millions of reboots, millions of Earths. Try to imagine being responsible for every aspect of your world, of physical life, having it work perfectly, and having it work transparently. I can't. I am speechless. I know, right? And we haven't even reached the most difficult aspect of it yet. Oh my God, you're shitting me. How is that? Ha! Well, let me tell you. So finally, when we were satisfied that we had covered every aspect of it, and we had all our ducks in a row, it was time to flip the switch, bring everything up, and then inhabit it with humanity that was fully and completely physical. Again, this is never complete and there is only now, but in your terms, this happened. Now, it's not that we didn't account for it, but what we had were basically a bunch of jabronis occupying the planet who had no idea what they were doing or why. I've always been partial to the saying, just fell off the turnip truck, because I coined it. They, you, really didn't know how to do anything. Now, granted, in our early iterations, we allowed, and you allowed, the retainment of your memory of yourselves as essence. Otherwise, it would have been too difficult and traumatic to bring you along. So you, in your focus, still had the remembrance of essence, and you had us, actual essence, to guide you and counsel you on your initial forays into physical life and reality. You were fully physical, but at least initially, you still remembered your experience of essence, and you had essence appearing as guides to help you along. This circumstance continued for, again in your terms, a time. In that time, Earth blinked in and out of existence many times. Reboots, so to speak, as various civilizations engaged and pursued different paths of development, and then blinked out in preparation for different pursuits. Many of them would be unrecognizable to you from your current state. There are clues of these older civilizations if you know where to look on your world, and many of them have already been discovered, though they are not understood as such. Holy crap, this is almost unbelievable. Who knew? Well, thankfully, and by design, there have always been speakers who have carried this knowledge forward with the help of essence, from civilization to civilization, from generation to generation. There have always been seeds of the truth, so that it was not completely lost to time and history. And though it is not part of your official history, there have always been those who carry this knowledge forward and share it with others. Is that what I would be, a speaker? Yes, Philip, you are. You, I, am fragmented from Seth, one of the earlier speakers in your time frame, and this is part of your purpose in this life. Not your fate, not your destiny. You chose to do this. Very well. So then what can you tell us about this most recent civilization and about the shift in consciousness? How did this come about and why now? Okay, so this last blink-in of your Earth and humanity was done with basically a complete amnesia. Enough prior work had been done with you that you had it down well enough to be able to really just plug along and plug through without too much overt assistance. Granted, there were still speakers, so that it wasn't a complete whitewash, but by and large, this time you were all on your own. But let me also add that you have never, nor will you ever be, alone. At one point, we did insert another Master Source event prior to this one in which you instituted the birth of the religions. That Master Source event has basically carried you through these last couple thousand years. It gave you enough juice to explore these final pieces of discovery about yourselves as human to carry you up to this point. Really, this represents the final pieces that you were missing in your exploration of physical existence in its previously current form. What do you mean by previously current form? And what is a Master Source event? Well, previously current because as of now, in your terms, your dimension has shifted. Your blueprint has been expanded already. New features, so to speak, have been implemented. It's like Humanity 3.0 in software terms. Thus far, however, and generally speaking, you all are like the dogs with the electric collars. The collar has been on so long, you haven't even realized that the electric boundary has been turned off and you can move more freely. This is what happened at the turn of your current century, and you're only now beginning to peek out and test to see if you're still going to get shocked. But the vast majority of you don't even believe that something else is possible. There will be a generational effect of acceptance as newer generations come along. As to a Master Source event, an MSE is an event of such significance that it is affecting of all people everywhere within your world. That prior one lasted you for over 2,000 years, and the effects of it are still being felt. But at this point, you have exhausted whatever positive and exploratory effects that MSE had, and it's ended up with you all just kind of going in circles. So a determination was made, and you could say it was inferred from the beginning, for there is no beginning or end. but a determination that humanity would move once again in a new direction, but this time without blinking out, without starting over, without a major catastrophe or flood, for God's sakes. Hopefully without a nuclear war, if we can get enough of you on board quickly enough. A new master source event that will allow you to move from complete amnesia to remembrance of essence, to see where you've been, to see what you were missing, and then to be able to utilize everything you developed thus far in this civilization's blink-in, but this time with full awareness of your heritage as energetic beings, being able to manipulate energy consciously to create what you want without being overtly over-affected by your belief systems, to work in cooperation with your belief systems and attention, and participate in only those things you wish to experience. This is what the shift offers you. I suppose this is a sort of surprise development, and you may view it as a kind of rewards of sorts for sticking it out as long as you have. Honestly, it's been kind of a shitty ride for you, and no one blames you for being sick and tired of being sick and tired. You've been whacking at this piñata long enough. Time for you to bust this baby open and get to the prizes inside. Right now, you are all basically traumatized. Between your current life and all of your other focuses, there's a lot of trauma. And unfortunately, this shift is now introducing its own variations of trauma. People are becoming more self-aware, and they are recognizing where they have been both victims and perpetrators. And like I said, people are even experiencing the traumas from their other focuses that didn't even happen in their current lifetimes. It's almost too much for many of you to bear. So a lot of you, your focuses, will be checking out because the change is just too much, and they can't make the leap from amnesia to awareness. This is why it is so important for those of you who can to practice acceptance and compassion for those who can't make the leap. They are your brothers and sisters. In many cases, they are other focuses of you. Treat them as you would like to be treated, given the same position. Where have I heard that before? Gotcha. So, tell me about this shift. What is it and what does it mean? I would be happy to, but it will require significant space and time. Ha! That was a joke. Very funny, Petra. I got it. You should. Where do you think you get your sense of humor from? Anyway, perhaps this is a good point to break, and we will pick up the conversation from here after you get some dinner and rest your hands and mind. Sounds good. I'm almost wiped out, but I'm very excited to continue. Very well, young Jedi. Enjoy your evening. Speak to your darling partner, and we will continue at your next convenience. Thank you, Petra. I appreciate you and love you very much. As always, my beloved one. And don't tell the other focuses, but you're actually my favorite. Psst, I'll bet you say that to all the focuses. Thank you for listening to Philip Mollica's Consciousness Evolution, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.